Hi everyone, I'm Alarice Rajagopal, and I want to welcome you back to another exclusive video roundtable on consumergoods.com and risnews.com as we're all settled at home during this social distancing. I've once again enlisted the help of an expert panel today to talk about how we go ahead and build a new tomorrow. So before I turn things over to Doug Rammel, he's going to introduce himself and the rest of our expert panel. I wanted to first, on behalf of CGT and RIS News, thank you all for taking the time to listen today. I also want to say thank you to everyone in our networks who are on the front lines fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. And I just want to say, please stay safe out there. So with that, I will go ahead and turn things over to Doug.
With me today, I have a couple of other panelists and we'll be talking, but this is what companies are doing now and how to survive or even thrive to the new tomorrow as part of the CGT and RIS Curb the Panic series. So if we could have the next slide, please. I want to kind of go over a couple ground rules as what we're trying to accomplish here. What this conversation is intended to be is a pragmatic discussion of current events and real world ideas and solutions. It's supposed to be fact and perspective based. We picked the panelists because of where they sit and the responsibilities they have and the views they're going to have. But this isn't intended to be a political discussion. No, how did we get here or who is to blame, but much more centered on what do we need to do now. There are other forums and other places to do that. We're too busy trying to serve the world. We are all in this together. I think what's become very clear is that we have to focus on survival. How do we help each other? And ultimately, what is essential? I think particularly in this interim economy. And ultimately, welcome to a new normal. How long COVID-19 is going to be around? I don't, there's lots of pragmatic debate, but ultimately what change will be permanent and what do we need to do to get through this interim? So next slide, please. What we face, and this is just meant to be kind of a quick review. Obviously, COVID-19 is a respiratory infection similar to pneumonia. It's caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus that impacts the lungs and other systems. Originally an animal-borne virus, considered virulent and especially infectious. What we do know is that it's transferred through respiratory droplet contact. That's why the masks are an item. And we know that it's more serious than the traditional flu or pneumonias. And again, there's other places you can go, some at the end of this slide deck that you can find more information. Next slide, please. What do we face? 90% of the US population is now under some sort of home protection order, and many have been extended to at least May 1st. There's some discussion that this is going to end up going into the summer at some point. So there's record unemployment, layoffs, and furloughs. The economy is contracting, but some essential businesses are now 24/7. Obviously, paper product companies, disinfectant companies. I have an antimicrobial company that I'll talk about. We're shipping as much product as we can produce. And I think everyone is facing some of the challenges of technology and operational processes and systems under stress, whether that's remote working and telework and working from home technologies, the distributed offices, how personnel and teams are working together now. Certainly the whole operational safety and hazard policy piece. How do you continue to run in a safe way? And what do you do about staffing? And last but not least, the staff morale. And I know I'm suffering merged family and work time. I'm sure everyone is seeing that, and all of it's changing our lives. The next slide, please. Our panel, so just quick for those you don't know me, a lot of you probably know me from Suavecito Tequila, but actually prior to that, I was an operations and tech exec in healthcare and sporting goods, now a venture capitalist. Abstract Reality Ventures is my firm, and Suavecito Tequila is one of my investments. Monofoil USA is another, and Synapse Digital System Solutions is a third. We have Steve Sigrist, who's VP Customer Service and Customer Supply Chain at Newell Brands, and I'll have him introduce himself in just a second. And then we have John Terrana, is our Digital Services and New Media panelist, Executive Vice President of Media Solutions from VanyerMedia. And John, I'll have you introduce yourself after Steve. So, Steve, if you could take it away.
Yeah, glad to. Thanks, Doug. Hey, I lead our customer service group. So it's a B2B group. When a trade customer, Walmart, Target, Costco, any major retailer, distributor gives us an order. Our group routes that through the system, manages it through the supply chain, and ultimately collaborates with the customer if there's any post-sales support needs. So we support about 10,000 customers globally, and about 90% of American U.S. homes and businesses have one or more of our products. And so we, in a time like this, we definitely want to keep goods flowing, and it can be a challenge.
Hey, Steve, just talk a little bit, what brands are in the Newell family?
Yeah, we've got Rubbermaid, Sharpie, Calphalon, Coleman, Yankee Candle, Graco. Those are some of the ones, to name a few. And then there's some sub brands with the products, Mr. Coffee, and quite a few others.
Gotcha. Okay, John, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Hey there, John Terrana. I'm the EVP of Media at VanyerMedia in New York. My role is to help oversee about 200 practitioners who do everything from media planning and buying across the full swath of channels, whether that's social, digital, out-of-home, TV, on behalf of our clients at Vayner. So that client roster includes a pretty wide range of folks, anyone from Chase and other CPGs like a P&G, Sabras of the world, and seeing a lot out there in the market right now, just generally in terms of trends on these digital platforms, but also trying to be as helpful as possible to our customer set and what is pretty crazy times in the digital ecosystem.
Absolutely. So, John, you're based out of New York City, right?
Yep.
So tell us what you're seeing, both in terms of your own life and then obviously from a day-to-day business standpoint.
Yeah, own life is luckily family, friends, everyone's healthy and safe, so that's the most important.
Good.
But 700 square foot Manhattan apartment, and exploring every inch of that and using every inch of that, and not one of the folks who has fled the city to kind of go upstate or to the Hamptons or something like that. So sticking it out here, making the best of it. But really, I think everyone in Manhattan has been really mindful of the guidelines to stay home, and it's really starting to take it super seriously. So that's good to see.
Good. I've had a couple friends send me pictures of like Times Square with no one in it. Is that really true?
Yeah, it's really true. I live right above Soho, which is normally 30 folks deep on the sidewalk, and some of the best shopping in the world. And walking through it and seeing it empty is quite a sight. It's pretty wild, actually.
Okay. Steve, you're out in Texas. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in Dallas and what's changed in your day-to-day life.
Well, Doug, I'm on my ranch. I got 500 acres, and we're going to ride my horse tonight. all the quintessential stereotypes. I'm in the suburbs, and an introvert like myself, I'm laying low and kind of loving it, and the family's laying low. A couple of kids from college that are at home, and unexpected bonus time to catch up with them. But certainly seen heightened awareness across really everyone you interact with on social distancing. Our closest of friends, you're talking to them on Zoom or Google or other things. It's just it's a new normal for the moment. But things are good and healthy, as John mentioned. So
good.
Health is the new wealth. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting for me sitting here in Indianapolis, right, is that same thing. I've actually had my daughters playing basketball with me for the first time in years, right? And so it's interesting how work and family are intertwining, right? At the same time, we're in a traditional 2,400 square foot house, so even your 700 foot square apartment, I can only imagine. Right? So, but nonetheless. One of the things interesting that I'm seeing across my businesses is I have 2 or 3 essential businesses. We're shipping as much tequila as we can. Oddly enough, we're shipping as much monofoil antimicrobial product as we can. But I have other businesses that are completely shut down. And so I'm kind of curious, Steve, obviously, you guys, Newell's an essential business. How are you continuing to run your operations, and how's that working?
Well, it's working okay. There's certainly snags along the way, but I think our team has really pulled together. My suggestions would be, lean on the experts, take advantage of your people. They know how to weather the storm, and there's ample resources to go figure out. Okay, if there's an area we need to spend a little bit more time on, let's go figure out what the best practices are. And our team has really done a great job of putting people first, Doug, and saying, look, we're no good without the people. If that falls apart, if people can't come to work, if they're not available, then it all shuts down. So just knowing that that's the number one thing in the supply chain, we've done a great job of taking care of the people, putting the interest there, and that frankly, it's led to some just strong opportunities to improve our culture, and to teamwork's going to look better going forward. There's definitely a silver lining to this activity, but we've got some essential products too that play a vital role in cleaning or food storage or stay-at-home activities. So we want to take care of our trade customers and ultimately our consumers to make sure those things are on the shelf. So that's where our emphasis is making sure that we have people there to execute.
Gotcha. John, how about your guys' operation? And obviously, what are some of the differences you're seeing across clients?
Yeah, internally at Vayner, it took us a week or so to get into a rhythm, but I think similar to as Steve said, interesting and really positive things being unlocked in terms of productivity, being able to do video hangouts like this, culturally sort of us getting tighter knit as a group and being able to coordinate without being in person has been pretty amazing and fantastic to see. And that's kind of the internal piece. On our clients piece, it's really been 30 days of shifting budgets and reacting to what's happening out in market, and making sure that we're being incredibly wise, not just with the messaging that we're putting out, given the moment and the sensitivities there, but also how we're deploying media dollars on behalf of clients to make sure the business stays as healthy as possible. So a ton of shifting around moving budgets into e-retail and getting folks to go and purchase on Amazon and Walmart online grocery and Target.com, shutting off things like traditional in-store driving television and things of that nature. So sort of like the basics there, but really starting to look forward of what are the macro shifts in consumer behavior. Coming out of this, you can take a category like CPG where maybe 5-10% of the shopping happened online. Now you're seeing 50-60% of the shopping happen online. Does that stick? And what does that kind of macro shift in behavior look like? And how do we respond as marketers, hopefully when we're on the other side of COVID-19 in the next 60 or 90 days?
Hey, John, why don't you talk a little bit about your clients and what approaches they're taking in versus e-commerce, Amazon, and versus bricks and mortar stores and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's been fascinating. I think across a lot of clients, you think about these shifts towards e-commerce and sort of direct to consumer and digital transformation roadmaps that we're working through. And sometimes they span a year, 3 years, 5 years. And now all of a sudden this digital transformation has had to happen in 30 days and be accelerated. So shifting as much as we possibly can into direct to consumer e-commerce world, seeing numbers of traffic and consumption and conversions that are 3, 4, 5x the norms that have happened on some of these sites. On e-retail, whether it's Amazon or Walmart or Target, the purchasing behavior there on certain categories has been absolutely tremendous. Whether a lot of consumer packaged goods, fast moving consumer goods are absolutely flying, and really we're seeing things where we're spending as much as we can in search on those platforms, but then we sell out the product, we have to shut it off. The product is back in stock, we're on, and it's really an interesting dynamic. So those are the two channels that are keeping a lot of businesses we work with healthy. But then, of course, at the same time, you have some retailers who 80% of their business was in-store sales. And that activity has gone away. So you're sort of thinking how you migrate to e-commerce, but also simultaneously think when we're past COVID, how do I get folks back? And are they just going to come back automatically? Or how does myself as a brand have to think about reigniting that customer base and getting them back into the store? Because expecting 100% of consumers to come back 3 months later, I think is just a total overreach. So we're starting to have some interesting conversations around what this looks like post-COVID, just to kind of like reignite your core customer base.
Hey, Steve, why don't we have you talk a little bit about Newell's relationship with retailers, and are you seeing any differences between brick and mortar stores versus e-retail or web-based?
Well, we've got we're 100+ year old company, selling to, anybody that's been in retail for a long time. So our relationships are deep. Our product set is pretty wide just because of the nature of products that we carry, and we're in multiple departments, certainly across most major retailers. And, our effort, today is just like, is execution good? I mean, customer really just has two basic requirements: ship me my goods on time, ship them complete. And we're up against enormous challenges working with those customers just because of the macro environment, carrier capacity, just delays and distribution networks, store closures, our customers having distribution centers closed. So our partnership with those customers, our background of working with them and having a relationship ahead of this time is so important and just critical to, what's the new direction going to be going forward. Certainly our retailers are moving, as John had said, they're shifting their efforts towards their store branded e-commerce channel efforts. How do we support that effort? What's that mean for our lead times? What's that mean for how we need to pick, pack, and ship and get goods ready to go? So it's just, I think agility and flexibility are buzzwords, but you got to move beyond buzzwords. You got to really put it into action, because you win or lose every single day in this tough, challenging environment right now by your ability to execute. So Doug, I just say in summary, we're doing a lot of listening, and in full transparency, we would tell a customer we got to be authentic with them on what we can pull off and what we can't. And where we think we could do more, we trying to do more, because it's an opportunity to take share and to do others, and probably ultimately just to meet a consumer's needs. Because if retailers are giving us orders right now, they're trying to fill a need across the consumers, what the consumers are looking for. So it's something viable. It's something a bit more real than it's been in the past.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this, Steve. Are you guys seeing any differences between your retailer customers? I mean, are you seeing different strategies or different approaches in terms of how they're trying to, process shipments, or, that are literally forcing operational change on your end?
Well, not a big surprise here, but you certainly saw the shift towards essential goods only. The things that really sold fast, sold quick, where we've seen all the out of stocks, those were the things that were most meaningful to customers. So some of the stuff that is a C, D SKU, or just way down the line of what you would put in your basket on a normal trip, just, Doug, there's just no, I won't say there's no demand for that, but that's certainly not the priority of our retailers. If it is, they're focused on the wrong things.
Right. I think one of the things that it's going to be kind of interesting is to see how the consumer's tastes change as we get further and further into this new normal, right? And, so I think we're seeing it here in Indianapolis in just the fact that paper goods are now available on shelves, right? So people they've either bought as much toilet paper as they can possibly buy, or they're no longer worried that they're not going to be able to buy it, 2 weeks from now, right?
Yep.
So then presumably their shopping habits are going to return to some sort of normalcy, right? And they're going to start looking at some of these other goods that aren't quote unquote, pandemic or epidemic focused.
I would just add, one of the things that you've got to do, and we've certainly, we're in front of it ahead of time, but it's becoming a stronger area of emphasis, and that's just scenario planning. I don't think any of us have a crystal ball for what's going to happen going forward. It's going to look different, but how well equipped is your team to understand or account for the variety of scenarios that can take place, and what are the different consequences, and what are the different response strategies to get ready for this. It's a new, as you had in your title, there's a new tomorrow coming, and you got it. It's going to look different. So.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, that's a great segue. John, talk a little bit about some of the thought leadership you guys are providing to your clients and just in general you're doing in your own firm. What is this new tomorrow going to look like, and how should people be preparing?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there. I think on the consumption patterns point, we've seen some pretty interesting data coming back from Amazon and Walmart of the way folks have shifted what they're buying. And we've seen sort of once you've gotten past the essentials, now the amount of comfort food people are buying is pretty, I think we all need it. And then also, if you look at something like the alc-bev space, just the increase of people actually buying wine and things like that online is fascinating. But that's sort of outside the consumer patterns. I think macro consumer behavior has changed significantly, and you're seeing time spent on social platforms absolutely skyrocket to unprecedented levels, where you have time on Facebook is up 50% in the past 30 days. Time on Instagram is up 30% in the past 30 days. You have platforms like TikTok that are absolutely exploding, because you have younger folks who use TikTok who are actually at home with their parents, and they're pulling their parents into the platform, and you're seeing TikTok get new users and actually more and more time spent. So in the social space, you see a dynamic where there's going to be more inventory than ever for brands to use through advertising, just because time spent is absolutely off the charts. And then I think it doesn't take a lot to guess that streaming, whether it's audio or video through the Hulus or the Disney Pluses and the Netflixes, or in the gaming space through the Twitches, all of those types of entertainment are skyrocketing. And I think if you're a brand and you're not thinking about how to reach consumers there versus sort of your classic linear TV buy, it's really the time to start to look to those platforms and adopt them quickly, because I think forever consumer behavior will be changed in the way we consume and where we spend our time.
Actually, John, different kind of question. Are you guys seeing any significant difference in consumption of like cable TV and news than, versus web-based consumption of news, and then obviously all the conspiracy sites and all that kind of good stuff? I'm curious.
Yeah, I can't speak specifically to conspiracy sites, but it's been pretty fascinating to watch. Like linear television, I think over the past 2 or 3 weeks in terms of consumption is up something like 13 to 15%. And it's the first time linear television from a just overall time spent standpoint is up in 15 to 20 years. And it's a pretty fascinating trend. I think for us, from a pure advertising lens, we start to have conversations around, okay, like it may be up in terms of linear consumption, but like what's the value of buying that spot? Like, am I sitting here with the Price is Right on in the background? That's not actually happening, but am I actually consuming the advertising happening on that, or is it just something where it's background noise, right? So the value of those placements, I think, is where we get into sort of test and learns with a lot of our clients. But it is interesting to see the linear numbers also pop to levels that we haven't seen in 10, 11, 12 years.
Interesting. But let's talk a little bit about the brave new tomorrow. Steve, what do you think is going to stick out of this shift, right? And what are the things that you guys are trying to do for permanent change?
I think one of the things you're going to see stick is just a renewed emphasis to really get it right on business continuity. So if something like this was to happen again, God forbid, or we'll get in front of this thing a little bit quicker. We'll have alternative strategies in the playbook ready to go. We'll, from our standpoint, we're going to have our SKU mix, tighter. It'll be better rationalization around that. There'll be better collaboration with customers on really what is the most important stuff. And that's to prepare for another scenario similar to this, but just ongoing. You're going to be smarter. You're going to be wiser. Data, it's again cliche to say to make data-driven decisions, Doug, but like we're going to use this information smarter and saying, hey, instead of this thing turning into fun facts, you're going to say, hey, when something mission critical is happening, this is where you've got to be in business. This is where if you're not in business, you lose customers or you lose revenue or it goes someplace else. So there's just going to be better emphasis on planning. And I think you're going to see a more collaborative environment between manufacturers and retailers and businesses like John's that, look, we got to figure out the mix here together of what works. And there'll probably be some casualties along the way of people who want to do things the old way or try to revert back to the, doing the same old and just think this thing passed. Is we build these tighter collaboration channels and we build better trust and dialogue with our partners that sell our product. We'll see better execution, and ultimately, the size of the prize could get bigger and better. I'm optimistic about it that we'll learn from this and power through it and be stronger and wiser from it.
Okay, John, any final comments you want to throw out there? What kind of permanent change are you seeing?
I just want to echo what Steve was saying. I think more scenario planning, more nimbleness, getting tighter on the what ifs and the collaboration is definitely a change we're going to see. I mean, a fun one. This is not a Vayner client, but I was talking to a friend in the space last night, and their brand is a large Olympic sponsor. When the Olympics being canceled, they now have tens of $millions of advertising that needs to be replanned and reallocated. And how do you replicate that effect, or do you not even spend it in advertising at all? Do you reinvest it into other areas of the business, whether that's supply chain? So thinking about how we react to scenarios like that and how that will change our behavior is just a macro fascinating element, I think, of our space and just how tight we have to get across all parties as we think about planning for the business.
Well, hey guys, listen, if we could have that last slide. This has been a great conversation, and I want to thank the two of you guys, obviously, for participating. There are, at the end of this webinar, there's a number. There's a number of resources that you can go to. Obviously, the World Health Organization, the U.S. CDC. Don't forget your state, county, city, and local health departments, right? I think one of the things that people have, we don't tend to remember the public health resources until we need them. But these guys they've built plans. A number of them have implemented community and county-based plans, and so your various facilities, your businesses are going to have to be compliant to those. There are equipment donation coordination sites. There are philanthropic and financial donation sites. And then we put up as well the U.S. Small Business Administration, your local Chamber of Commerce. I know one of the things that I've found with a number of my smaller businesses is those businesses that actually had a relationship with our commercial banker have very much benefited in going through the process to try to be able to access some of the governmental loans and grants that are now available. Those who didn't have any relationship with their banker are getting stuck in the queue behind literally thousands of other people. So there are clearly some things that you can do to try to prepare yourselves for the next kind of situation like this. So with that said, let's kind of bring this to an end. Again, I want to thank the panelists. I hope everyone out there is staying safe and staying home and finding ways to be successful in your business while complying with public health requests. So thank you very much, guys. Take care.